All right, let's talk about homework for this week. For chapter 3, if you go to your workbook, there are review questions each time. And if you ever see those in your grade book, they should say either upcoming or overdue. In the past, I've assigned them, but I'm not going forward. So don't worry about the review questions ever, but do worry about them in your own workbook because I want you to look at them and make sure you understand them. So if you want to fill that out, I think that's a great idea. I don't need to see it, but I think it helps you remember and understand. Then project 3A is buttercups that we actually just went through. So we are not going to do that. But if you flip the page, chapter 3B, objects galore, and that's what the Dropbox is here. That will be due a week from Monday, so September 21st at the start of class. And if you look in the workbook, it's going to walk you through a few directions. And basically, you're going to make a grid, put in some background colors, and then you're going to take objects that currently exist and you're going to knock them out of their existing background and bring them into this document and position them and possibly rotate or shrink them or whatever to match what we see in your workbook. So this is going to be a high-res file. When you're all done with it, your last step is going to be to take it down to 72 dots per inch and allow Photoshop to throw away the extra pixels so that resample box is going to be on. You're still going to have a PSD document. This is layers. I'm going to be able to turn the eyeballs on and off of each layer to actually check your selections. So you're sending me a PSD file, but its physical dimensions are now 72 dpi. So let's pop into Photoshop and I'll show you the project. And we're going to open and go to your workbook. So I need to go up to the book files and switch to the workbook. I also have this in Blackboard. If you don't have all of the book files downloaded, you can grab it right out of Blackboard. But notice that there are a whole lot of things. So I'm just going to open up chest JPEG just as one of the items. So these are flattened JPEGs of all of the objects you see in the workbook. We have to make a new document. They give you the exact size, the pixel dimensions, the color mode, and the white background. And then they talk about putting some guidelines in and how to do that. So let me just show you that real quickly. I'm going to do a new document. So File, New, and they talk you through the sizes here. So once this catches up, all right, this is going to be custom. They want it to be 8.25 inches wide by 10.5 tall, 300 resolution, RGB color mode, and a white background. So we'll say create. So here's the document that we're working with. They walk you through putting in some guides, and I've shown you, or at least I hope I have, that if you hover over the ruler and click and drag, and my computer catches up, you can actually bring out guidelines. And I'm seeing a measurement there. A lot of times you're just winging it, you're lining it up with something in a picture, and it doesn't matter. I'm going to click undo. If your ruler is in a different measurement, if you right-click on it, you can change. So if it's showing pixels or something weird, make sure that you're in inches. However, when you know certain readings that you want to bring out or measurements that you want to bring out your guides, we can go under View, and then we can find New Guide, and it says, okay, where do you want to do this? Okay, it says in our book, a vertical one. Where do we want it? At 0.25. Say okay. And that's like pulling one out from this side at the 0.25 inch, which you can do. You can do it all manually if you want by pulling out of the ruler. If not, you can continue to do it this way. The next one they want is at 2.75. So eventually you're going to make, oops, I didn't mean to do anything. You're going to make like a tic-tac-toe grid here with 3 rows and 3 columns and 3 rows and some white space between them. Then you're going to take the rectangular marquee tool, and because you have all of these lines drawn in, if you follow step 2, it'll be something like this. You'll take your rectangular marquee, it'll click to these guides, and then they're telling you to fill it with a color. It doesn't have to match what's in the book, but the first one in the book is a red color. So if I wanted to kind of keep it like the book, I would pick a red color and say okay. And then to fill with that foreground color, I would do an Option Delete. So that's what we learned early on in the chapter. So you're going to go and make a bunch of rectangles using these guides that you've done and fill them with different colors. Then you're going to open up these different JPEG images, and the object is to get just the desk. So in this one, you would want to think, what's the best tool? Well, everything's brown, so there's certain tools that aren't going to be great. But maybe the polygonal lasso, because these are straight lines. So maybe I can click here, come all the way over here. It's a straight line. This should work. I might want to be zoomed in a little bit. But you can see how I'm doing a dot to dot with straight lines. So this might be the best tool. And eventually you would go and select this all out. I'm going to do a poor job of it just to finish. But here is our selection. And we're going to do a copy, Command C. That's going to copy all the pixels that are inside of our bounding box. And I come back to my other thing. I'm going to deselect and I'm going to paste. Command V. And on layer 1, there's my desk. Now, this has to be a good selection. You have to use the right tools to get your selection how you want it. But then I would use my Move tool and I would move it into position. And it has to be where it shows up in the book. This is in the 2nd row in the 3rd rectangle. Obviously, it's too big. So how do we handle that? Remember the transform family? With our layer selected, to free transform, we use Command T. We learned that last week. And because we want it to shrink proportionately, that is now the default behavior of this. We used to have to hold a key, but we don't anymore. So as we're pulling it down, it is scaling proportionately. And when we get it to fit inside of that rectangle, which we really can't see yet because I haven't drawn them all in, but we would position it like we see in the workbook, and we're done with that one. So this background layer is going to be all your color fills. This is going to look like a colorful checkerboard, and then you're going to have 9 layers of objects that are isolated from their background, and in best practices, you're going to name it. So what is that thing? I don't even know. Hutch. I'll call it a hutch. Some of them, in addition to scaling them down, you also have to rotate them or tilt them a certain way. So pay attention to that. Use all the varieties. So when you see the flower, you know that that's going to be some weird edges. You're going to have to use some other tools. The polygonal lasso won't work. So at any rate, you do this all the way through. You get it looking like it is in the book. But remember, when I go to image size, and we're going to have 9 layers plus the background, this is still at high res. It's going to be a huge file. Before you send it to me, take it down to 72 dots per inch and make sure resample is clicked on, giving Photoshop permission to throw away pixels. Notice I'm now down to 1.3 megs, much better. And I'm going to say, okay, this is still a PSD. It's still a layered file. So that's the one you're uploading to Blackboard. It's a PSD file with multiple layers. I can click on each one and look at your selections. I can turn off the background and really see. And it's not going to be a ginormous file. It's going to be 72 dpi. Do that at the end. It's much, much, much easier to make selections on high-res images than low-res. There's just more to work with. So the final step, when it's ready to go to me, is to downsize it, get rid of some of the physical weight, and then upload it to Blackboard. So that is the one assignment, but it contains a lot of things that we've learned, including transforming from previous chapters. So get really good at this because selections are critical to everything that you do in Photoshop. So if you have any questions, email me and have a great week.